Today I wanted to talk about the Evercade VS. It's a retro console that is coming out fairly soon that uses cartridges to play games. It's based off of the Evercade handheld. We've covered the crap out of the handheld, all the different cartridges that have been released for it. I think it's a cool product, but I know everybody has their ways they want to play. They may not be for what, the Evercade is doing. You may be for it. I'm just interested in it, and I know a lot of you guys are as well, and that's why I want to talk about it. And there is a bit of new news to discuss concerning the VS system. So it was announced not too long ago that there is a little bit of a delay. Very disappointing, but we got some new information concerning the actual system that I want to talk about as well. But back to the delay. So it was originally supposed to launch worldwide November 3rd, I believe it was. So early November, it should have started shipping out to people. Now it has been pushed due to all the crazy nonsense going on in the world. Like, they have production, it looked like they showed pictures of pallets of the Founders Edition that they said everything was like good to go. It's just all these logistics things going on out there. So, the ports and the ships and just getting things to distribution centers kind of a hassle. But they're it's unfortunate that they couldn't get this out there when they initially promised. But it's being pushed to, in Europe, to early to mid-December. Now, when I say to Europe, that just means distributors or retailers who are selling from Europe. There's going to be plenty of you guys who are not in Europe who ordered from like Funstock Retro and whatnot. So yours will be shipping out around that time. It's just for anybody who ordered from some, business or company within Europe. So that'll be like December 8th through the 14th, somewhere around there, early to mid-December for European orders. And then for the US and Canada, for the distributors and retailers out there, it's unfortunately going to be a little later than that. They're aiming for around the second week of January. So there is a bit of a delay. So if you ordered from a company in the US or Canada, it's delayed to mid-January. If you ordered from somebody in Europe, it's delayed to early to mid-December. So we'll keep tabs on that, see if anything changes over time. Maybe the situation can get a little better and get out there a little earlier. But yeah, it's a little disappointing. It is what it is. When this thing launches, they're going to have over 280 games available for it through all the different cartridges that they have put out and are releasing. And with this announcement of the delay, they did say, hey, we're going to have some special announcements coming up, including a brand new version of the Evercade handheld, like a special edition type one, that's not going to be available for pre-order. It's just going to be, boom, you can buy it type of thing. So we're going to have to keep tabs on that, see what to do with that, if it's a different color or what they did differently with it. So we got to wait for that. And then they're going to have like some new cartridges that they announce in early December, somewhere around there. So there's all that. Now, today they just put out a user interface like tour of the actual VS system. And I liked what I saw there because it answered some of the questions that I had. Now, obviously, we already know you could put in two carts in this system, and either one or two, it doesn't matter, mix and match any different cartridges you want. And you can also sort them via, like, when they came out, the publisher, that kind of thing, how many players, that kind of stuff. Sort it by the single cart, the two carts, or them combined. So there's, some basic stuff that we're already aware of there. Now, once you select a game, it'll give you the game info, tell you the controls of the game, and you can also load your last save state if you don't want to just click play. Because if you click play and then you get into the game, you can go into the in-game menu and then load your save state. But from the main UI, you could just load your last save state when you boot up the game, so you don't have to go through the extra steps. So that's one thing that is a nice little addition to the system. Not mind-blowing or anything, but it is a convenience type of thing, right? Now, they also showed off the aspect ratios and different visual options that they have. So we got original, which is going to be scaled vertically to fit, the screen that you're displaying this on. Then you're going to have pixel perfect, which is integer scaling, and then full screen where you stretch that bish out, and some people like to play that way. We're a judgment-free zone here. Whatever you do in the privacy of your own home is your business, but yeah, I ain't ever going to be using that full screen nonsense. But it's there in case you want to use it. I don't know. Maybe there's some games that it's fine with. But for the most part, I've never really cared for full screen on games that were originally used on old school, like, 4:3 aspect ratio screens, or even handhelds that were not in a widescreen format. So there's that. You also have scan line options. You have a subtle or strong scan lines. And you can also set the scan lines onto the user interface, which I found interesting. Some people may like to do that. Some people may like to have all that set up. To each their own. I am fine with scan lines in the sense that they exist, but for the most part, I rarely use them. But I did think that the subtle scan lines that they showed looked all right. I typically don't like scan lines because they just darken the screen usually, but their subtle scan lines look pretty good. I think a lot of people will, who are in the scan lines anyway, will probably default to the subtle ones over the stronger ones, right? Now you also have different bezels. As long as you're not stretching it out, you can use bezels. They have 6 different images you can use, and they also are talking about having new bezels added through firmware updates because this system does support online connectivity. You could set up Wi-Fi on it and get all that going, so that's a good thing. Now they also have UI themes. They have a dark, a light, and then the VS Classic. The light is supposed to kind of mimic the look of the console. The console is white and red. I think the VS Classic looked good, but I'll probably either use that or dark. And with the themes, they also stated, that there could be new themes coming in the future through firmware updates as well. So definitely could have some more stuff with that. I think the bezels looked all right for the most part, fairly basic stuff. But with the addition, maybe they could get some game-specific bezels added, or developer-specific bezels, publishers, that kind of thing, like different company-specific bezels. That would be kind of interesting. Have to wait and see with that. And then as far as the visual stuff goes, they also had which I wasn't aware of before, that they have an accessibility mode, which you can put into a high contrast mode for, certain visual impairments and whatnot to make things easier to see. That's a nice thing if it comes in handy for you. Cool that it's there. And then also they have new options as far as save games go, if you are comparing this to like the handheld anyway. So you have a quick save slot, which boom, just quick save. Then you have the load last save, which we already briefly mentioned. But that's also, all this stuff is accessible in-game menu type of thing. But you can also load last save from the UI. So all that stuff is good. You can kind of manage your saves, delete them if you need. And that's pretty cool. So fairly simple stuff with the saves, but they did kind of, ramp that up and give a few new options there to make it a little more easier to use and, just more convenient anyway. Now, one of the biggest things that I'm happy is included, and I kind of figured would be, is control mapping. Now, in the video that they talked about and all the information that I got with like press release stuff, I've really only seen where it's mentioned that, we already knew this, but like you could add additional controllers that are like not Evercade branded controllers that you could just use. Maybe an 8-bit though, maybe an Xbox wired, I don't know, but various other controllers that you could plug in will work. But obviously every controller is different, so you may need to do some button mapping. So with the button mapping option through the system settings, you can assign the buttons per what is originally on an Evercade controller. Now, the one thing that I noticed in their video, and I hope is the case for when I get this thing in my hands, is that for the button mapping in their demonstration, they button mapped an Evercade VS controller. They didn't button map a third-party controller. And that seems like, and it should be there. That option should be there because we didn't really have that with the handheld, and that kind of annoyed me with certain games. Not every game, but some games just felt extremely unnatural due to the button layout. And then they did put out a firmware update where you could flip certain things, but then still some games, I still wish we had button mapping. Now, is this an overall way to fix button mapping per game? Not necessarily, but if there's a certain way where you're like, you know what, if I had this controller mapped this way, I wouldn't worry about any of these games that I play. And it looks like that you can go ahead and button map the VS controller. That's the way it looked in the video. Hopefully that doesn't change. You can just button map anything you want. But that's cool. I mean, if you get the bundle that comes with like 2 controllers, these things use up the 4 controllers. At least you can use other controllers if you so choose. So I'm definitely excited for this thing. Hopefully get my hands on like an early review unit, give you guys some good impressions, do some streams of it. And that's what I've been looking forward to. I like the handheld. I like the idea behind what these guys are doing with all these licensing deals and different cartridges. Not every game's going to be for everybody, but I just like the idea. it's reasonably priced. And while I do like handheld gaming, I'm on YouTube. I like to have something that's easier to capture footage or live stream and hang out with you guys. And I think with the VS console, that yeah, I'll be streaming the console more so than I ever did with the handheld, because it was more of a hassle to play the handheld live streaming. So this is going to be a way to, enable me to have more content and to be able to do more things. And typically, I like consoles more so than I do handhelds. That's the way I like to play, but I still love handhelds too. So it's cool to have these options with the whole same ecosystem of games that can be played between both of them. I mean, would have been kind of neat if they did like a Switch knockoff where it was a dock and you just docked the the Evercade handheld. But I get it. You got to add all these extra features and controller ports, get these new controllers out there, and have your own little console. I like the way it looks. Can't wait for it to come out. Unfortunate news with the delay, but it is what it is. Thank you guys for hanging with me. Let me know what you think down below, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace out and bye.